we're going to have a little talk with the different street medic organizations and talk a little bit about how we got started. Let's see. Taylor, would you like to talk about how Street Medics Dallas got started?
Sure. Okay. So my first daughter was born on the same day that George Floyd died, and ordinarily I like good protest, but obviously I was a little indisposed. So I started looking for other ways to help, and what I saw is that just tons of burners were responding to the protests in safety capacity, but almost always as individuals. And so I just started a Discord and started adding people to it, and it really just went from there. I did a little bit of admin type of stuff for a few weeks until there were enough actual medics to do the job. And then I kind of dropped out to raise my baby, but I still check in on them all the time. And boost their stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I definitely blame you because you were the one who asked me to start, and I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of the other street medics in Dallas got their start.
It's definitely your fault, Taylor, but it's been fun.
Yeah, no, it has definitely been. It has been an experience. It's been a great experience. Let's see. Chairman, talk a little bit about your experience.
Hi, I'm Chairman Meow. I am I do logistics and all kinds of stuff for our command team on Street Medics Dallas. I was in Austin the weekend that the protests were going on and handing out water with them down there. And the participants were like tear gassed under 35. And we were had our medic station set up. And so that was an experience. And I was on my way home from that. And I was like, man, it'd be really cool if we were doing this in Dallas. And that's when Taylor started the Discord. And I joined that Discord and went to the first meeting. And well, we've been going out and doing protests and stuff since. We also have expanded into community outreach, and we work with houseless populations now doing vitals checks and things like blood pressure and blood glucose. So that's my experience with Street Medics Dallas.
Innuenda, would you like to talk about your part in Street Medics Dallas?
Sure. That's what I do with Street Medics Dallas.
Thanks. Is there anyone else here from Street Medics Dallas who would like to talk a little bit about our particular corner of the medics?
I see Yoga Pants in the chat. He's one of our actual medics that comes out. I don't know if he'd want to say anything about what he gets to do on deployments with us or not.
Yeah. Or how he even got roped into it.
Howdy, hey all. My name is Luis. Other people know me as Yoga Pants. I run around with these crazy group of people. I am an EMT in real life. I also work in the hospital, and I'm currently contracted with the city of Dallas giving out vaccines. I just pretty much do a bunch of BLS stuff. Sometimes there's paramedics with me, but a lot of the times it's just boo-boos, Band-Aids, and if things do go down, we do have a protocol that we follow and that we implement and that we try to teach just about everyone on the team.
Awesome. And I see we have Street Medics Austin is also here. Ginger.
Yep. Hey, I'm Ginger. I'm one of the OG Street Medics Austin people. Brentley is also here. He was one of the founding members. And basically it all started, I blame Brentley in the same way that I'll blame Taylor. Brentley just kind of created a Discord for it, or added people to his Discord. And knew that people were going to be going out. It was going to be a hot weekend of protests that we all knew were happening. We knew things might get a little heated. So he just was like, all right, burners. I know you guys are out there. I know there's a lot of pets around Austin, which is the flip side first aid tent group. So just added us all and started helping out as much as we could. It's been a crazy year almost. Yeah.
I am going to ask it, I guess I'm going to be a little bit more specific in a little bit and just ask about some of the skills that we've learned at Safety Side and at Burns, that some of those skills that we are bringing into what we do as street medics. Just real quick, I want to see if any other street medic groups are here. Let's see.
Well, just as far as bringing stuff I learned at Burns goes, I was previously the BAFK facilitator of Mischivia for like 5 years. And so that's why I had the thought to just create a chat for it, because that's kind of what you do a lot of the time.
Okay. Oh, Nikolai, do you want to talk about your group?
Yeah, me and Katie are part of a street medic group in Columbus, Ohio called FACO. We basically started started as a group on, at least my group started as a group on the Capitol building, providing care for people. And Katie was part of a different group on, I think,
Spring and Third.
That I think was actually rated by the National Guard at one point.
Yeah. Once or twice.
Yeah, but we went and just started learning and we had some EMTs, paramedics, doctors, and we had some past people who had street medic training at Standing Rock, and we started learning from them and started providing more and more care, and eventually we've gone to like every protest since then.
It was great. This time last year, I knew none of what I know now.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how most of us are feeling, because I know Dallas didn't exist before June. Okay. Any other groups here that would like to introduce yourselves? Let's see. Okay. Okay. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about, because we do have a lot of crossover between different groups, and Safety Side does focus on different burn events. So I'm really happy to see people from outside of burns that may not necessarily attend them, but maybe attend similar events, or but have experience with working with, with providing care for your community. So, and in that sense, I think we are all the same. One of the things that that kind of took shape for our particular group was that, like Taylor and me and Chairman and Innuendo, we all have had experience at volunteering at the burns, providing care for that particular community. But we also learned, while training for our positions, that we learned about using ICS, which is the Incident Command System, which has come in really, really, really handy for street medic stuff. So what we ended up doing was we kind of had our little command post set up. That was our HQ, and then we would have our radios. We didn't have actual radios. We would use Zello. And when we would send out we would always send out medic teams in pairs. and at least one of them would have a radio so that we could always call in and keep track of them and make sure that they were okay. Because sometimes we would have like 3 teams, and like we'd send them out with a parade, and so one team would be in the front of the parade, they want to be in the middle of the parade, and one would be in the back of the parade, and then we'd have our person at HQ just kind of staying in touch with all of them and making sure they were okay. So we were really fortunate in Dallas in that we had not had a lot of run-ins with the police. Because after the first weekend that was really, really bad, they banned the use of tear gas, and that was really nice. So we have not had to deal with a whole lot of, some of you guys I know have been dealing with a lot. We've been very fortunate there, but we always prepare every deployment with the idea, prepare for the worst. We bring our gas masks just in case. And we've got a pretty good size inventory, just in case things happen. We try to keep ourselves in training. We've had people, like our fellow volunteers have been giving like stop the bleed trainings and things like that, just to make sure that we all, because the other thing about street medics is everybody's got such a wide range of experience. We've got people, who were certified nurses, but they've lost their certifications. We have people who are only certified in first aid or CPR, or they were like 2 years ago. So it's that kind of thing. And then all the way up to like, we've had a medical doctor, we've had EMTs, paramedics, that kind of thing. So just very wide range of experience. So the other thing that ICS has been useful was for the organizational side of it, where we were like, okay, we've got to figure out, how to keep track of our volunteers and who has what specific skills that would be useful and how can we best, utilize them. So those are some of the things that we've been learning, and some of the skills that we've used in other events that have come in handy with the street medics, mostly with the organizational part of it. So let's see. Oh yeah. Innuendo, you want to talk a little bit about the unhoused encampment suite, because that was a little intense.
Sure. So we have been helping a local unhoused encampment since January, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is when we started. And we've been providing them with health checks and vital checks. And so we go out several times a month, and we're doing, we're checking their O2 stats, we're checking their heart rate, their blood pressure, their blood glucose if they want it. We're providing wound care. And so we've developed a relationship with these people, and also with other mutual aid organizations that are helping the same camp. And so we got word last minute that, let me start over. I'm sorry. Their original camp got closed. And so they got moved from where they were, and they set up a protest encampment right next to City Hall. And they got last minute word, less than 24 hours, or like right at 24 hours, that they had to leave or they were going to get swept. And they decided to take a stand instead. And so it was like a last minute call for people to show up and for medics to show up. And at first I thought I was going to be the only medic. Thankfully, 2 medics from Denver saw the call for bodies and drove in to back me up. But yeah, these cops showed up with riot gear and zip ties to arrest a bunch of disabled and homeless people. And they were kind of pushy about it. And, we're walking over people's tents. And, as a medic team, the 3 of us had split up, and because I need spine surgery, so I can't be like in a protest. So I stayed with the residents, and help them gather their supplies, because the backup plan was they had a truck where they were loading all of their stuff onto, in case we needed to make a quick getaway. And so I was helping the residents get their stuff to the truck and then over to safety and stay there. And then I'd walk back and help the other one while the other medics from Denver were staying with the protesters who were standing in between the residents and the police. And yeah, it was an intense afternoon, and it ended with us, those of us with cars, taking these camp residents and getting them off city property, as a lot of cops were showing up with more zip ties ready to arrest everybody. But that's since the bridge last year, there was a bridge incident where 600 people were tear gassed and arrested here in Dallas. So since then, like that particular deployment at the protest encampment was the most intense run-in we've had with the police here in Dallas. We've just been really lucky, like Gio said.
Yeah. Let's see. On the chat says, for anyone seeking first aid and stop the bleed, the American Red Cross is excellent online courses. We are at one of the things that we are talking about as far as the future goes. Our particular organization is talking about finding out what it would take to be a first, like a sort of what was the name of it? It's through the American Red Cross, right?
We're looking into becoming a training center to be able to train our own trainers and host first aid, CPR trainings, etc.
Yeah, because there really seems to be a need here. So that's one of the things we're looking at for the future. We are also trying to become like a 501c3 organization, which is lots of fun paperwork, but we're getting through it, because I think that will open up a lot more doors to us personally. So those are some of the things we're looking at for the future. Let's see. Yeah. I'm just reading the chat from Tangles. As a nursing home nurse on the trach floor, I never felt so helpless as I did during the BLM protests. I could not participate. I get teary-eyed with pride and anger thinking of all my fellow burners did and endured. Yeah, I mean, Kat, Austin, I know Austin went through a lot.
We did.
I mean, one of our friends, got hit by a rubber bullet in the hand and had to have surgery.
One of our friends had to have part of a finger amputated. Another person still undergoing a lot of nerve damage issues from being hit in the wrist area.
Yeah,
it sucks. I mean, it really sucks when you have friends who are volunteering as street medics who get hit in the hands specifically, because that's what you use to heal people.
Yeah.
And then they shoot people in their hands as they're trying to help.
We also have a volunteer who has issues with her hearing now, because she got hit in the head with a rubber bullet. And now, she's having trouble with, hearing people's heartbeats. And, when she's doing BP, she has to do use the automatic ones instead of just like the regular ones, because she can't hear it. So it's no joke for sure. Let's see.
I've been told that I should mention a time that our street medics had an interesting encounter with police specifically, and it was kind of later in the summer. So at a certain point, we finally were able to make contact because we tried reaching out a couple times to the police department to say, like, hey, we wear hot pink. You can tell it's us. We're not ever going to do anything that's like causing harm to you, right? All of our people are just there to help others who get hurt. They're not protesting. They're not going to shout. They're not going to be carrying signs, unless they're like free first aid signs. And they're certainly not going to be throwing anything at your police officers. They're not trying to inhibit an arrest, anything like that. They're just there to help. So, I mean, we even like have rules that we don't even jaywalk. If everyone else is marching down the street, we're on the sidewalk. We only do legal street crossings, and the only time we're ever in a street is if we're treating someone who's in the street and needs help. And so we spent forever trying to reach out to the police department about that, to like let them know, like, hey, we're not trying to do anything crazy. So we finally got in touch with them, and then they knew who we were. And then there was a march that was happening down the middle of a road, and so our street medics were kind of off on the side, and the sidewalk kind of died out. So then they were across on this little like weird traffic island situation, and the police were coming in pretty intensely trying to arrest a couple people. And the street medics just kind of panicked. And I think they're like, what do we do? What do we do? They're coming at us. And basically ended up just taking a knee, trying to seem as non-threatening as possible. But it was just a really awkward and intense experience for some of them. That
it was kind of that, like, so there's traffic on all three sides of this island. It's a triangular island. And so the cops waited until like all the protesters had crossed from the like sidewalk side onto this island. And then the light turned red. So there was traffic on both sides actively. And then they pulled up along the long side of the main street. And so we were like blocked in on all sides. And there was like traffic, and then the light turned green. So there was like a lot of active traffic along the side. So you couldn't leave. And then there were cops in front of us. And like, we were getting yelled at. We like had guns pointed at us at one point, and like we were just sort of trapped. And we're like, we're very identifiable. Like the people that I was with were all wearing those hot pink shirts that Ginger's wearing, and like a lot of them had the medic like across their backpack. I had like hot pink stripes across my backpack, and we're like, I don't know how to identify ourselves as any more non-threatening than having the word medic all over me. And so, yeah, we just had to like take a knee and wait it out. And it was pretty terrible because like we couldn't walk like away from the situation, but we couldn't also get like farther into the situation to help people without also being seen as a threat by the cops. So it was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because, and that was one of the mindsets I had to change when I went from working at Burns to working as a street medic, because previously our mindset was, you know, you reach out to the police and you let them know who your group is, and then we're going to be in your town. We're going to be burning something. We have all these safety protocols that we're going to be putting in place. We are not going to be a threat to your community. But that we try to make an effort to reach out to the local police and try to, you know, and also the fire department, because we're burning things. And it's always interesting. We've always gotten a much better response from the fire department than we have from the police, but still, you want to reach out. I have learned, you know, that is not necessarily the case with street medics, you know, because we are seen as another protest group, even though, you know, we're not necessarily, you know, we're strictly there to help people who get hurt. That's pretty much our job. And it's just, it's sad that there is that disconnect, and that, you know, that we're supposed to be the ones that are, you know, trying to help people, and yet we get tear gassed and shit thrown at us, and, you know, it's really too bad. There was a hand up from Kate.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. We had a little different approach to a couple things in Columbus. As previously mentioned, we certainly had plenty of times with the police not caring for us being there. And the chief of police did state in a interview on a news station at one point that, yes, the cops would target medics because our presence meant that people that when they're deploying their dispersion tactics, if we are there to help treat their eyes, their lungs, whatever is wrong, then the people can continue to stay protesting and not disperse as planned. So obviously, you know, when you medic out here, we were very aware of the thing. For a while, we would use different signs to identify ourselves. We try to do something similar to tell the cops, like, you know, hey, like we stand separate. We are generally on the sidewalks. We do not partake in chants as much as some of us really, really want to sometimes. And we don't throw things. However, we added additional protocols on top of that. There were times when we had people try to pretend to be medics and cause chaos and such. So we would, we have a great relationship with a lot of our organizers here in Columbus. We will let them know before the day of what color duct tape we're going to use. We don't announce that. And then we mark all of our people with said color duct tape when we show up, so that the organizers and all of the protesters know that I am marked with X color duct tape. I am safe. I will help you. And it's a little harder for, I'm just going to say, undercover cops to screw you up. Yeah, it just another thing that if especially in Austin, if you do continue to have issues with that, possibly agreeing with the organizers, letting them know ahead of time. That we also had better luck. The state troopers that were closer to our state capitol building that many of the protesters happened around would listen to us when we asked for an ambulance call, and they would help an ambulance get to us. We had several instances of police not listening to us or obstructing or preventing an ambulance from getting to where we needed it at certain times. So I don't know how often you might engage with the state troopers, but for the most part, state troopers and or the National Guard, the weeks they were down here, would respect and listen to us when we said that.
Speaking of National Guard, I just had to work with the National Guard because I've been working a lot with the winter storm response in Austin.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. So I was starting out with a volunteer group. Sorry, Chairman, what?
You keep going. I said I want to hear more about that.
Well, I want to let Sparky ask his question or say whatever he was going to say. But yeah, like with the National Guard too, they usually are pretty good about helping. So if they're around, they're usually okay. They're people. Just talk to them. Yeah. I was working with the city for the winter storm response. I was with the volunteer org, and then actually got pulled in because I worked for the city anyway. And so I was in the city's EOC. So now I have a lot more contacts there that I'm really excited about using. But all of this was possible because of the ICS experience that I have with burns, which I have from a couple other sources as well. And I used to use it in a lot of aspects of my life, which is awesome because it's all like coming together really well, and the experiences from one group work really well with another group, and it's really cool being able to use that.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about ICS. So,
yeah. And let me go back to a question that was asked earlier, and it was kind of a worst case scenario. The question is, are we prepared for emergencies such as tear gas and riots? I guess and I guess to answer that, we do try to prepare. It's hard to prepare for everything, but before the deployment, we talk about what the potential risks might be. Okay, we know that the police are coming to this one, or maybe the police aren't coming to this one. So we'll talk about, and this is just us and the command team kind of getting together. We'll also talk to the organizers of the event, because sometimes the organizers have their own teams of people. We've had people. We've worked with groups who, because Texas is an open carry state, we've had groups that bring weapons to protest. They keep them hidden, but they, and thankfully nobody's ever had to and they're all trained on how to use them. I've never been concerned about people brandishing weapons that they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They all seem to know what they're doing, and it was the first time we saw that, we were like, whoa. And then we were like, and once we got to know that some of these groups, we were like, okay, now we feel a little bit safer working with them because they did seem like they understood about de-escalation techniques. So we were like, oh, this is where the Ranger kind of crossover happens. It's like, so we've been trying to work with the de-escalation, and but but it's like, and it's like at a burn, you get to a point sometimes where, all the little ranger techniques don't always work. And sometimes you have to throw somebody out, and sometimes you need to bring the police person who's been stationed at your gate. And sometimes you need that person to come in and escort that particular participant out. So there is some parallels there. But yeah, no, but it is a very different environment because, unlike at a burn, where you're surrounded by people that, community members that for the most part, you are familiar with them, and that they'll step in and help you. And when you're doing a protest in a city, that's not always the case. Sometimes you get, you get the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and people who show up, and it can get very what's the word I'm looking for? A little volatile. Like I said, the best thing you can do is just kind of try to prepare for those things, and it's kind of amazing what you can do when you have to. Let's see. Let's see, Sparky, you had a hand up?
I got a little change of the discussion here, but I heard Innuendo mention he worked on finance for his group, and that made me get a little excited about hearing the F and C flops. So the branches of ICS, one of them is the finance branch, and you have to have resources to deal with your incident. So first question I have for everyone that's here, how many of y'all street medics have never been to a safety site? Raise your hand. Awesome. So some of you for the first time might be learning about formalized ICS training. I hope that's part of why you're here, and how we've kind of evolved it into a burner culture. Some of us who are professional first responders deal with ICS on a completely different level. And but we've adopted, in my sense, probably one of the most dynamic ICS training programs for groups like ours. And so I'm really glad you guys are here, and glad to hear there was an F. We've never heard the F and C flops, anybody mentioning that from another group. So that's really cool. I saw Ginger's question about our relationship with law enforcement. Now we've had these experiences. And as a former LLC member for Flipside, I can tell you that first of all, at the current county that the event has been held, we have a pretty good working relationship with the county SO. So we're fortunate. It hasn't always been that case. We've had problems with the previous SOs from other counties where we've held the event. I don't suspect that Flipside would see any change in that dynamic at all. Secondly, they have been a great deterrent for all the other outside problems you don't want to have in your event. So having the officers there, we have had a professional relationship with them. I don't think a change of that may be different for you and your event location. So even though we've had these horrible exchanges with law enforcement, there are some good cops out there, and there are some good leaders in those agencies, and if we can nurture that. So that's my next question. Are y'all looking into developing a relationship with law enforcement, maybe the district attorney, the city manager, the mayor, the head of the EMS in your area, to let them know, hey, we're not a threat, work with us. I'm sure you get pushed away from them, they don't take you serious, blah, blah, blah. But, and And then my follow-up to that is, have you considered possible legislation that recognizes street medics, at least at a local level?
Yeah, so within Austin, we definitely have contact with a couple of the various council members and various staff members for those groups. We've definitely been talking to EMS commanders and fire department people. I mean, one of our co-founders works with the fire department. So he was already pretty dialed in with that. I mean, yeah, I spent quite a while trying to speak with police officers about, making sure that they know that our group exists and that we're not going to do anything stupid. And finally, when we got in touch with them, I had a meeting one evening. It was like a Friday, I think it was July 24th. Finally had a meeting with them. We had a talk, thought we had an understanding about things, like if another significant incident happens, and EMS has not arrived on scene yet, are your officers going to try to interfere with providing care, basically? And they're like, no, definitely not. And then the very next night, literally like 24 hours later, is when that protester got shot. And then the officers physically blocked me and my paramedic partner from providing care. So it was really frustrating to feel like, okay, well, we finally have an understanding. And then literally the next day, it's the exact opposite. So it's really hard to get that message kind of down through the ranks, I think, and kind of get them to go against their just super militarized training, which is form perimeter, keep everyone out, which is valid. I totally get it. I mean, keep me out, sure, but take the trauma supplies that I'm trying to hand you and give it to them, the people who are providing care. If I have a backpack full of stuff, take it and use it. Don't just block people out because they're bystanders, That's really hard to get through to them, but anyway.
Yeah, in Columbus, I've gotten personally some progress with working with the state troopers to, as we've talked to, we've gotten them to be able to call ambulances and to provide care. In Columbus, surrounding our police officers, we actually have a really weird rule, or we used to have, it got changed a couple months ago because of a shooting, but police officers used to not be able to provide care to people legally. I don't know why, but they weren't allowed to. So we had that on our advantage, saying, hey, you can't do this, so can we at least do it? But we had a very hard time, especially contacting ambulances and stuff, because police would often jam phone signals, so we couldn't contact the ambulances ourselves. And police, for the most part, just would not work with us. State troopers and highway patrol and National Guard were a lot more kind and helpful. I think they have more training beyond what our local city people do, and so it gave them a step up of knowing how to interact with us.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to talk about how we approach that, Gio.
Okay, go ahead.
So we do things a little bit differently in Dallas. We have maintained a neutral stance as far as like medics on, helping people. But our local organizations had a hard time trusting us and wanting to work with us with our original stance of neutrality. And we had to back off of that. And we do not have a relationship with law enforcement. The local orgs would not trust us if we did. And those are the orgs we're working with, and the orgs that are asking us, to be at their protests, to support their protests. And so we have had to take a much different approach, to a lot of organizations, because the local orgs just wouldn't work with us otherwise. And we've developed really good relationships with these orgs now, these very grassroots organizations, and they trust us. And so we like I said, we maintain our neutral stance of who we will help. We will help anybody if they'll accept our help, but we don't engage with law enforcement as an organization.
Okay. Yoga Pants, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to go over a few things in terms of I guess with me personally, working alongside police, I say alongside because whenever I deploy, I wear this patch. This patch is state recognized, and they tend to, I haven't had an opportunity outside of like my actual career to, I guess, engage on deployment with police. But I find it a lot easier in terms of getting to people a lot quicker if they see a state recognized patch for emergency medical. So if I just go ahead, wear the patch.
Okay.
Do you think that that patch might compromise your status or protection under Good Samaritan Act stuff? Because that's usually what we're using in Texas to kind of protect ourselves legally for what we're doing, is by saying, you know, we're Good Samaritans, we're not being paid to do this in any way, shape, or form. We're not liable in case shit goes wrong for you, essentially. So, like, does having your official, you know, state patch compromise that in any way?
I kind of yes and no, but it gives me the duty to act, because if I see a patient in need or a person in need, I am obligated to provide medical assistance. Whether it be like, if I'm not identifying myself, yes, obviously I don't have to do anything because it's not my obligation, but I want to make it my obligation, so I wear the patch.
Also, we have in our SOPs that our volunteers can act within their professional, if their professionals' scopes of practice, like are greater than ours, then, you know, they can act within their professional scopes of practice.
Okay. Ivory, you had a question?
Yes. Well, it's actually, we have a system up here that for our street medics or for our ICS or for our, we call them wandering medics up here. If you're volunteering, whether you're qualified or not, like we took the ICS training here in Missouri. We're in St. Louis, Missouri, by the way. And we come to the barns down there as well as up here. Sorry, I should have said that beforehand. Up here in Missouri and St. Louis, if you're certified or you're volunteering, if you're a street medic or a wandering medic, as we're called up here, you can go either online to the ICS for Missouri, you can go to your local ICS registration, or you can go to your local fire department registration, and they post it to the boards for the state at whatever protest, at whatever event, at whatever you're volunteering. If you have they ask you would have your name visible for either if you're an EMT or if you're a nurse like I am, if you're a volunteer, if you're BLS certified or anything, you just put a small sticker on you to show what you are, and they'll give you a registration number. You just write that registration number on your pack, make it really visible. I usually have the bright fluorescent glow-in-the-dark green reflective stickers that I put on my pack if I volunteer or whatever. It actually helps with law enforcement to not attack you, to not gas you, to not do those things. It also helps with the fire department. They will listen to you. They'll call an ambulance for you. They'll do those things for you. Like with our ICS training as well, I went down to our local over here and registered to let them know that we are certified and everything. And we have they've taken our pictures and give us our own badge for that as well. So it's really helped in keeping us from being either attacked or shown aggression to by the police or any number of things in that. I don't know if you guys have that down there or not in the state of Texas, but we have it in Missouri, and it's not like wildly advertised. A great way that I found out is I went to our local CERT and ICS, yeah, our CERT training, and they gave me the register. So they told me where to go and where I could register, and it keeps us safe. And it could possibly help you guys.
In theory, it's identifying specifically and intentionally identifying the non-combatants to the police,
right,
to say, hey, these people are friendlies. In theory.
Right. I've actually done it, and it actually helps.
Yeah, Texas doesn't have an ICS registration number. You have something unique there, I think. Probably what's, as you're referring to, having a CERT patch on your person may help a police officer. And I say may because they're not all familiar with CERT. At least, know not to shoot in your direction, but y'all are trying your best to identify, don't shoot me, don't arrest me, I'm here to help, and that's the best that you can do. But there's not a magic ICS number that you could put on your person that the NIMS Department of Homeland Security recognizes. It's just you have the certification numbers if you take the test.
But man, it's going to make it look not pretty if I have that after they shoot me.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing to recognize is that even at our events, local SO, local responders, medics for fire, that you call in from the outside, they're not going to know that you're a civilian that knows ICS. And you probably, after our training, know it better than they do. So that's why building the relationship with the local resources and letting them know, hey, we host this annual training and we teach all our volunteers. And then when they can hear and see you do it, we had a situation in Austin where we had a major tree collapse, that's what it was called, and it fell on an entire camp. And so we went in full mode ICS management, and the local sheriff department was on their daily drive through the property and heard all the action on the radio and came by, and we asked them if they wanted to get involved. They said, no, we've been listening to everything and you guys are doing it right. So we got an attaboy from the sheriff for doing ICS and managing our situation. So it's building relationships is the key. And I don't think there's a magic button. Even an EMT patch can be, overlooked and you still get shot at. I mean, as a firefighter on a hostile scene, I can tell you I'm looking over my shoulder all the time, and it's not necessarily at the bad guys.
Yeah, I think in our experience in Dallas, the use of ICS isn't necessarily to impress the police because they don't care whether we do or not, but it helps us as far as organizing, because before any deployment we're like, okay, Gio's going to be the IC, the incident commander. Gear's going to do operations, and he's going to be the one on the radio. Chairman Meow is going to do logistics, and Yuendo is going to do finance. We kind of decide this little command structure before every deployment, and it's really helped us a lot as far as remembering what our role is. That we try not to step outside those roles during deployments. So that part has been helpful. Okay, let's see.
One other thing that I'd say is especially applicable from burn volunteering to street medicing is just the weird types of injuries you see at burns. Like, I am so used to people waking me up at 4 a.m. for a scorpion sting because they were building effigy, and they're like, is my finger gonna fall off? I'm like, no, you'll be fine. I know you're from up north, it's scorpion, you're gonna be fine. Like, I can't even see it. You're fine. But like the same kind of stuff at a protest, because you'll be like, how on earth did you get a piece of glass in your butt? Like, honestly, okay, great. Yep. Just take your pants off. We'll take care of it. But like being able to improvise and adapt in ways that you learn from volunteering with First Aid at Burns is really, really helpful for street medicing.
Yeah, you see all kinds of things. But again, I think that helps us to be prepared. You know, again, you just hope that the worst doesn't happen. But the more experience we have with the weird stuff, you know, the more prepared we feel when things actually happen. And it's like, oh yeah, we saw this last year. It's fine.
But y'all are operating in a pretty hostile environment and chaos. And I think the more your team is cohesive in their management of their skills and resources, and everyone knowing your duty, like Gio says, then you minimize not only harm to yourself, but you're actually more helpful. You guys have got to be the calm in the storm. So the more you can plan and prepare and train, better off you are.
Yeah. Okay.
And I also want to say thank y'all for being there for your community. I mean, that's pretty hardcore, you know? I mean, I don't know if I want to stand around in all that hostile environment and take pepper spray in the face while I'm trying to help somebody with a boo-boo. So hats off to you guys.
All right, we still got about 6 more minutes. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Kate?
Oh, I was just wondering, since you mentioned the myriad of injuries you've encountered before, and I know we're looking at more training on this, but do you guys have any advice specific to mental health instances? As you mentioned, we tend to be in some very high stress environments, and assisting people that are having less visible injuries occurring, trauma.
I would say that the sanctuary training that I've picked up from Burns has undoubtedly been helpful in dealing with people who are, you know, stressed out and like it's de-escalation tactics. You're just being able to like listen to people. You know, somebody might come in with a bobo, but they are really upset about what's going on. So, you know, just being able to, you know, listen to that, you know, it's more than just like, okay, let me put a Band-Aid on this, but, you know, we're.
Yeah, I would say if you have anybody in your community that's like a trained counselor or something like that, maybe have them on call. But because that's something that we've been talking about here as well, is that it would be really nice to, you know, have that resource available for when we go out, because that does happen. Also dealing, because we do a lot of work with the unhoused, and there's a lot of mental health issues there. So being able to go in at least with a list of resources, that's also been helpful.
Thank you.
A lot of your local city pages might have, depending on which state you're from. So over here in Texas, they have kind of like a statewide Medicaid, or people like who just automatically qualify for Medicaid assistance. They can go to just about any mental health resource center and just get help there, or they can lead them to more definitive care to the county hospital.
Okay, any other questions? We'll go ahead and wrap up. If not, man, I've heard some great things from you guys. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories. It was wonderful to hear from everybody.